Where are we on Fury retiring?
I definitely no. Shouldn't retire. No.
He's not about to retire.
No.
But where are we on whether he should? What he does is up to him because he'll do what he wants.
What we saw on Saturday night was a guy that is clearly number 2 still in the world.
Yeah.
That clearly has the ability and is at the top of his game, as in we found out that he's not good enough for Oleksandr Usyk, but he's good enough for any other heavyweight out there right now. So, no, he won't retire, and I think that he needs boxing.
I don't agree with that premise, and I'm not sure that Duke does. I think Daniel Dubois is a currency that could.
Do you think Daniel beats Tyson Fury?
Yeah, I do. Duke, where
I
are you?
do, Spence.
Yeah,
I do, Spence.
Not right now.
Daniel Dubois is an absolute beast right now.
He is.
Yeah.
He's in beast mode, and he's learning more than Fury is learning. We've seen the best of Tyson Fury.
Oh, absolutely.
But we haven't seen the best of Daniel Dubois yet.
No, I totally agree with that.
When Dubois hits peak, I'm telling you, the rest of the heavyweights better be on notice because that guy is going to take some holding.
That's what I think.
He's still improving, Dubois,
Yeah,
but right now...
very much so.
Right now, he doesn't beat Tyson Fury.
You don't think so?
Not right now.
We'll talk about Dubois a little bit later, but
Yeah.
personally I think Dubois knocks out Joseph Parker, but we'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, the noise starts to reverberate and starts to rumble about Fury versus Joshua. It's being talked about. I mean, I don't think it is, but people will think it is for various reasons. I think domestically it might be, but internationally I think it's lost its lustre now that both of them have lost their world titles, and both of them have lost twice to Usyk, and Anthony Joshua's been cleaned out by Daniel Dubois. But it's now being billed as the biggest fight. Where are you guys on that fight? I mean, do you want to see Fury versus Joshua, Duke?
It's going to happen. It's going to, Simon, when you're talking about names in the sport of boxing, there's no bigger names than Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
There just isn't. I mean, Oleksandr Usyk is a great champion. Daniel Dubois is another good champion. Yeah. And even if those two fought on one night and you put Joshua and Fury on another night, Fury and Joshua is going to clean out any stadium worldwide.
Commercially, it's a much bigger fight for the casual.
Do you? Do you think internationally? I mean, I think domestically, I think they'll put them in Wembley Stadium and they'll sell it. But, in America, people think of Anthony Joshua as being knocked on his backside by Ruiz.
It's not a big sell over there for sure, but I think that commercially over here, though, it would do huge numbers.
Yeah, in this country, sure.
Yeah.
And in Europe, it would still do well.
When you look at that fight, we're going to go off into hypothetical mode now, but just indulge ourselves for a second. Do you think Anthony Joshua, I mean, you probably do because you're a fully paid up member of the Anthony Joshua fan club, right? But do you think, I'll ask Duke first because we might get some objectivity. Do you think that we can get, do you think Anthony Joshua will beat Tyson Fury?
It's a good question. That fight boils down to one thing in my mind, and that's who has what left in the tank.
Yeah.
If Fury can produce a similar performance, he needs to produce a better performance than what he did against Oleksandr Usyk, then he can win.
He has to be better than he was against Usyk to beat Joshua.
And he probably would be because obviously he's not faced with the southpaw stance.
Right.
So he'll get a lot more success.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure just how much punch resistance Anthony Joshua's got left.
He can outbox Anthony Joshua, can't he?
He can outbox Anthony Joshua, sure, for 12 rounds. There's no doubt about that.
I think Tyson Fury goes in as a favourite against Anthony Joshua if that fight happens next, when you're going on recent form, because I think the big question mark now is over Anthony Joshua and what he's got left.
Yeah, that's what
I'm saying. Like, in going on recent performances, I think Fury is the one that he looked better in his last fight than Anthony Joshua did in his last fight, for sure.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing fight.
Well, but the fact of the matter is, with Daniel Dubois, we're talking about Daniel Dubois being a challenging fighter. So Joshua fights a live one. Then again, I suppose the same logic prevails because Usyk was kryptonite to Tyson. Let's move on to Oleksandr Usyk and his future, and let's listen to the legendary boxing trainer Teddy Atlas and his views on it.
He's the kind of guy who could have lived in any era because he's a full package. He's technically solid. He's mentally solid. He's got the physical gifts. He's not great in one area, but he's very good in every area. There's not one area you say, oh, he's bad in. He's got to make up for it in another area because he's weak in that area. No, he's solid. And you know what? Back in the day with my mentor, Cus D'Amato, back in the he used to say the greatest compliment you could give a fighter back in the day was that he's solid. He's a solid guy. On any night, he can fit in with anyone. This guy can fit in with anyone because he's solid physically, solid technically, and most of all, solid mentally.
He's 37 in January. Obviously, there's pots of gold, truckloads of American dollars to earn over here, but he still looks fresh enough to go on, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Look, somebody just sent me a text, said, who's out there to beat him? I said, Father Time, guy named Father Time. You know, that old saying, he's undefeated. He's out there. Look, it would be very interesting with Dubois because Dubois is a different guy now. Dubois is, and he's young. And you can get served, as they say. So Dubois is a different guy than he was when he fought when he fought Usyk the first time. He's redeemed himself. He's found himself. You know, he's a more confident fighter, a more together fighter. But Usyk can do whatever he wants.
I mean, Teddy Atlas is someone whose opinion we'd listen to and take at face value. Do you go with the sentiment that Usyk lives in any era?
I think he lives in any era for sure, whether he beats, anyone in the elite of any era, but he definitely lives in any era for sure. You know, when you go back to even, the 90s, when you're talking about your Lennox Lewis's, like Lennox Lewis at his peak, does Usyk beat him? No, I don't think so. Mike Tyson at his peak? No, I don't think so. No, Holyfield at his peak. But what I'm saying is he lives in those eras. He definitely competes in those eras.
So Teddy's not necessarily... Teddy's verbiage just lives in those eras doesn't necessarily mean he dominates in those eras. He dominates in this era because ultimately he's beaten everybody.
Yeah.
So
he's a modern day great, not an all-time great.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because when you look back at the 70s and you look at Muhammad Ali, you look at Jeff Frazier, you look at George Foreman,
Holmes,
you look at the back end with Larry Holmes.
Sure.
Then you go into the 80s, you've got Larry Holmes,
Spinks.
Then you've got Mike Tyson, you've got Michael Spinks, haven't you?
Yeah.
And then you go into the 90s, and you've got Lennox Lewis, and I think I don't want to be disrespectful to the Klitschko era, but that wasn't to me the most star-studded era and the most irrepressible era. But I don't see Oleksandr Usyk in any of those eras being the dominant force that he is in this generation.
I mean, it's difficult.
But what does that tell you about heavyweight boxing?
Yeah.
Does it tell you that this era is not what we've cracked it up to be? Because once upon a time, it was being talked about, not necessarily by Duke, but we've said it, and it's been said by others around us, that Tyson Fury could be considered as one of the greatest of all time.
No.
Well, he at one point, though, he was heading that way. It did look that way. And like I say, the landscape of heavyweight boxing always changes. And the answer to your question about living in different eras, etc., there's no real right answer to that because we're all it's subjective, isn't it? What you really think it is. Because like Usyk's superior boxing skills in this generation, this era there may be more there that we haven't seen because no one's pushed him to that level.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like, Duke. He raises his game every single time. And whenever a fight is close with Usyk, he knows how to turn the screw and pull it together. So there's no real right answer to that.
He also lives the perfect life, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately for Usyk, he's got the physical conditioning because he lives the life. He's also got that additional X factor that no other fighter in the world has got, besides someone from the same space, which is he's fighting for a nation of people that are writing him letters, telling him how much he means to them, and soldiers on the Crimean front telling him that he's a hero to them. So he has all of this alongside the fact that he's an absolutely supreme athlete. We mentioned him earlier on. Let's bring him into the conversation. Daniel Dubois, I mean, I don't know with Daniel, I don't know why he wanted to go in the ring and do that. I don't think he needed to. Some people would say, well, hang on, Daniel, don't start talking to Usyk. Go beat up Joseph Parker first. It's a little bit previous. But he did, and some people say it might be
a tough fight.
It is a tough fight. It's one I think Daniel Dubois will come through, and I'm sure that
it's
you
the dumb
do
thing.
too.
You know, we're talking about
it's
why...
not a dumb thing, that, buddy.
No, I'm talking about Parker fight. I'm talking about...
Parker.
No, I'm talking about why he got into the ring and
of course, yeah.
Started calling out Usyk. That's the done thing, isn't it?
It is now, yeah.
Where you sell the
it's
fight.
The rigor
and
now, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like what you see in a Rocky film, isn't it? When Rocky beats Drago or whoever and, Apollo Creed jumps in after and says, I want you kind of thing. That's a similar sort of thing that he's done. Was it right? Probably not. But, who's going to take notice of it?
Well, I prefer that version of Daniel Dubois that's being much, much more...
humble and more respectful.
Well, no, that wasn't the point I was going to make.
Okay.
Daniel Dubois was a mute. A couple of years ago, I had him on a show. He didn't want to speak, couldn't speak. His dad was getting in the background, getting on my nerves, to be honest with you, Stan, and talking over everybody. And now Daniel Dubois is getting more confident. He's assuming the position. Whether we like that or not is kind of irrelevant. It's entertainment. It's part and parcel of it. It's Disneyfication of sport.
It's the selling point, isn't it?
It is what it is.
I think for Daniel as well, I think it's good that he's just trying to come out of his shell a little bit, you know, that he needs to as the world heavyweight champion. You need to sell yourself in this world. And I don't think it's a bad thing that he's trying to do what he's doing.
It kind of,
because if he was silent, he would be getting criticised for that.
It goes with the territory.